Once upon a time, in a tiny Alabama town called Hartland, there was a mobile home park called Birchwood. This wasn't your typical community of old folks, stray dogs, and mystery meat barbecues. No, this was a place where a rather unusual problem arose. People wanted to be buried in their own backyards. Now, if you're thinking, what could possibly go wrong? Well, stick with me. The good people of Birchwood didn't want to be buried in some fancy cemetery miles away from their homes. No, they figured, why not make the backyard the final resting place? A nice, cozy spot by the trailer. You can almost picture it, neighbors hosting a backyard barbecue, while Grandpa rests 6 feet under next to the garden gnome. But unsurprisingly, the town officials weren't having it. Local zoning laws and health codes didn't exactly approve of having cemeteries next to your neighbor's living room. It was one of those bureaucratic nightmares where everything about the situation screamed, we need to pass a law to stop this from happening. So in 2008, the Hartland Town Council, in their infinite wisdom and probably too much coffee, decided to pass a law that would make it officially illegal to die in the mobile home park. That's right, illegal to die. You may be asking, how does that even work? Well, this law meant that if you happened to shuffle off this mortal coil in your trailer, you couldn't just call it a day. No, your body would have to be carted away from the town limits to get a proper burial. Think of it like getting evicted from the afterlife. You could die, but only if you did it somewhere else. Yes, the law was as absurd as it sounds, but the town council was serious. Imagine getting a citation for dying, like the kind you get for parking in the wrong spot, but way more permanent. And the real kicker, they even put in a fine for those who violated the rule. That's right, if you managed to kick the bucket in the wrong spot, you were charged. Now, naturally, the public had some thoughts on this. It didn't take long for the news to spread beyond Alabama. Soon, national and international headlines exploded. Town bans death, read the New York Times. Grim Reaper banned from Alabama town, shouted NPR. The BBC went as far as to call it the most American thing to ever happen in America. And who could blame them? It's not every day that a small town in the South passes a law telling you when you're allowed to die. It was a real head-scratcher. People from all over the world started asking, can you actually outlaw death? What if someone trips and dies unexpectedly? Was that a fine-worthy offense? How would you prove you weren't planning your death when it happened? Would you need a death permit? The absurdity was, well, absurd, but it was also a symptom of much bigger issues. The law might have been ridiculous, but it also exposed a real problem about the lack of affordable burial options and housing rights for people living in mobile homes. These were not rich people, they were working-class folks who didn't have easy access to cemeteries, and this law was their last straw. They wanted to be buried near their homes, not on the outskirts of town. Ultimately, the law was repealed. It turns out that banning death is just about as effective as banning gravity. No one was ever actually fined for dying in the park, thankfully, but the entire fiasco made people question the deeper problems of housing and property rights for mobile home residents. It highlighted the struggles that low-income communities face when it comes to legal protections and zoning restrictions. So what's the takeaway here? The whole thing was absurd, yes, but it also served as a quirky reminder that even the silliest of laws can reveal deep flaws in our systems. Maybe we shouldn't be passing laws about when people can die. Maybe we should focus on laws that help people live, especially when it comes to affordable housing, proper burial rights, and community access. And who knows, maybe it's time to give the Grim Reaper a permanent pass in Hartland.